There is racism not only against Palestinian people.
It's true. Well, first of all, there's several different groups of non-Jewish people in the country. Of course, Palestinian people are the largest group, and they're the indigenous inhabitants and the main group that the racism is focused on. But in the last 10 years, we have African refugees who've crossed into Israel. It's less than 1% of the population, but the government, the government has also been inciting racism against them, passing laws to restrict them, rounding them up, putting them into camps, making their lives miserable so that they feel forced to self-deport, and inciting racism, calling them cancer, you know. There have been race riots in Tel Aviv, you know, and vigilante attacks. They stabbed a 1-year-old baby girl in her mother's arms. Like, there's a very, very high level of anti-African racism. They're firebombing an African kindergarten, and then the person who firebombed the kindergarten gets no jail time. So yeah, and of course, increasingly, there's also antagonism towards those few Jewish Israelis who resist the racism, who are in solidarity with those persecuted groups.
Okay. And why you are considered a thorny journalist?
A thorny journalist? Yeah, like, well, look, it's, sadly, I'm one of the few people who are speaking out about it, about these problems in society. I'm not the only one by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm one of the only ones. And frankly, I'm one of the only ones speaking about it in English. And, you know, obviously, if it's in English, that means that more people can read it. There's a much larger English-speaking audience in the world that can find out about these things. And I think that the way that the Israeli government is able to continue these policies is because there is very little pressure on it from outside the country. Because the government puts out a message that everything is fine, everything is good. Those people, Palestinians, they, you know, whatever narrative it has, they deserve what they get. And so as long as it controls the message, people don't put pressure on it. And we're at the point where the government is now it's already convinced almost everyone in the country. The left is gone in Israel. There's almost no more left to speak of. Those that are left are on the run and in the closet. And so all that's left really is outside the country. And so the only way for those people outside the country to put pressure is if they have information from the inside. And so the government needs to cut off that information, and so it persecutes the whistleblowers, the peace groups that report on the human rights violations inside the country, to Palestinians, to Africans, and others. So the groups that document it with cameras and in their writings, those are the ones that are targeted.
But have you ever had problems?
You know, it's true, sometimes I have been attacked in the streets by, you know, right-wing people, but most of the time it's not an issue. I leave the country, I enter the country, that's not the issue. The main way that I am targeted is by trying to delegitimize me, saying, you are not a legitimate journalist, you are not motivated by a search for the truth, you are motivated because you hate Jews. And of course, this is a common refrain. I'm not the first person to receive this, although of course it's strange when I am Jewish and am Israeli, and you know, so it's stranger for me to receive this, but this is the narrative, and in this way they hope to delegitimize me so that it becomes difficult for me to earn a living, because a newspaper doesn't want to receive these attacks. They don't want to be called anti-Semitic, so by trying to smear me, they can try to smear anyone who will publish me. So it's difficult just to make a living. That's the main way that it's difficult for me. But physically I'm fine. Thank you for asking.
Okay.